Kenshi is a strong but pathetic idiot who was summoned from another world to assassinate the princess. However, when he's taken as her prisoner, she rises him up and makes him clap all her enemies for her cause. The story begins with Princess Lashera getting crowned as the ruler of her people. While the coronation is ongoing, Kenshi and his team of assassins are hiding in the shadows, already planning to assassinate her. Later that night, Kenshi is tasked to lead the operation to infiltrate Lashera's floating palace called Swan. He enters his battle suit, which is a high-tech mecha suit, and flies straight to Swan. Inside, Lashera is surveying a legendary battle suit alongside her allies Chia and Ulite, and she notes that it has turned into a showpiece because no one can operate it anymore. Just then, Kenshi approaches the island, and Lashera is alerted, so Chia rushes to her own battle suit to intercept it. She believes her fight with Kenshi will be a walk in the park, but to her surprise, Kenshi puts up a good fight. About 5 minutes into their fight, Kenshi's suit's eyes turn red and Kenshi yells, which causes the legendary suit inside the castle to react to him, leaving Lashera shocked. Meanwhile, Kenshi is winning the fight against Chia, but for some reason he seems to be out of breath and growing weak. Immediately, his boss reaches out to him via comms and scolds him for not unaliving the princess on time. He then tells Kenshi to carry out the mission, under the condition that he'll let Kenshi return to his world when he's done. After Kenshi hears this, he sweeps Chia off her feet and charges straight at Lashera. Unfortunately for him, Wahan stands in his way with a Glock filled with gunpowder and tries preaching peace to him.
Americans.
When Kenshi realizes that he has no way out, he releases the limiters in his body and attacks Wahan till the point that she reaches her breaking point. Chia also tries to attack Kenshi, but when Kenshi realizes his suit is cooked, he loses control and smacks Wahan to the ground. After that, he attacks Chia and causes lots of damage to her battle suit, which renders it immobile. Kenshi then charges straight to Lashera, and Chia chases him on foot. When Kenshi gets to the queen, he's barely managing to walk, and Lashera is surprised that he's a male because male knights are extremely rare. Lashera accepts defeat and says she doesn't mind being unalived by a guy like Kenshi, but Kenshi tells her that he only wants to take her away because he isn't interested in eliminating her. Before he can explain his motives, Chia finally catches up and charges at him, but he swings her off like a mop stick. Shortly after, Kenshi grows weak and almost pukes, and Chia uses this chance to pounce at him. She is moments away from finishing Kenshi off, but Lashera orders her to stop. Chia reminds her that her image could be ruined if the outsiders learn that a male has snuck into her palace, so Lashera tells her to keep it a secret. She knows Kenshi isn't the mastermind behind the assassination, and since he was abandoned by his comrade, she plans to have him under her wing. During that time, the church sends an informant named Messiah to Lashera after finding out that Prime Minister Babylon is trying to steal the legendary battle suit. The next day, Kenshi wakes up in a cage and is pissed to see Chia on the other side, so he tries to scare her off with his sheets. However, he realizes a bit too late that he's rocking his natural bodysuit, and the size of his nuclear weapon shocks Chia. Being flustered, she gives him a set of clothes and also points to a deep wound on his arm, which she tended to while he was out. After that, she asks Kenshi if he thinks his people will rescue him, and while Kenshi thinks about what to say, she tells him no one is coming and that he's just a sacrifice. Seeing that Kenshi is choosing to stay silent, she decides to walk away, but not before threatening to unalive him if he spreads word that he's entered the queen's palace. She then pushes a button, and he is exposed to the cold air of the floating island, showing that he can easily be dropped to his death if he doesn't cooperate. Afterward, Chia tells Lashera that she should tell the higher-ups about last night's attack, but Lashera believes that her country would be in danger if she did. She suspects that Babylon was behind the attack and intends to investigate why he's after her. During that time, Messiah shows up and asks Chia and Lashera about what happened. So they tell her about last night, including the part where they captured Kenshi and his white mech. Later, Kenshi falls asleep and wakes up to Messiah stroking his magnum. She then shoves his face in her milk factory. But Chia shows up and ruins their good time. That same night, his comrade sneaks into the palace to rescue Kenshi, but when Kenshi reaches his boss's ship, the man questions why he didn't unalive Lashera and orders the guards to search him. To his shock, he finds out that Kenshi has been bugged with a tracking device and assumes that he's on Lashera's side. As he asks Kenshi how the queen got into his head, Kenshi denies making any deal with Lashera, but his boss decides that it's better to unalive him. Shocked, Kenshi reminds him about their promise of sending him back to his world, but his boss laughs and tells him he's a mere sacrifice for Lashera's assassination. As he recalls Chia's words about him being a sacrifice, he finally realizes that he has been played. He then attacks his boss despite being weak and fights the other guards who come at him. Despite being outnumbered, he piles up their bodies one by one and runs out of the room, weak and scared for his life. Outside, Kenshi's boss comes to attack him again, so he decides to jump off the ship. Luckily for him, Aura, a princess of Shirifan, spots him and rescues him, but the enemy gives her a hot chase. Soon, Chia arrives to capture Kenshi, and the boss is forced to retreat. A while later, Aura takes Kenshi to Lashera's base, where they discover he's suffering from a deadly disease. Because of his condition, Messiah and Aura head out to find herbs that can cure him. However, as they leave, their opposition goes to attack the swan. So Chia pilots a battle suit and fights alongside Wahan to defend the palace. All the while, Aura encounters Doll in the forest, but she takes her out with her dark elf field. Moments later, she returns to the swan with Messiah, and they save Kenshi with the herbs. While they continue their journey to the Holy Land, the princess decides that Kenshi will be brought along as her attendant. While they head to check on him, Kenshi storms out of the bathroom in his natural bodysuit and accidentally grabs a handful of Chia's milkers, causing her to freak out. Apparently, he had been running out of the bathroom because a bunch of hot women were ordered to bathe him.
It should have been me, not him!
Knowing the kind of dude he is, his Johnson would definitely get out of control. He eventually gets taken back to the bathroom, where he is rigorously touched by the chicks and dressed up afterwards. When Lashera confronts him about her plans, he hesitates for a while but then decides to come along, since it'd be an opportunity to meet more baddies. When they arrive, Kenshi is completely astonished at the sight of the city, but he tries to keep cool. The following day, Kenshi gets taken to the castle, where he meets Princess Maria, Lashera's cousin, with whom she's always on bad terms. They get into a mini argument, which leads to them revealing each other's plot armor to Kenshi, asking him to choose which looks better. Kenshi ends up choosing Maria's attendant, Yukine's plot armor, so as not to stir up a war between nations. Later, since Kenshi is a strange guy in the capital, he is made to wear a collar as an entry permit. While they advance, he is shocked to learn that battle suit are absolute weapons in their world, and therefore, to ensure offspring or high-caliber beings are born, the countries manage the marriage between Sekishi. For that reason, since the population of Sekishi baddies is on the high side, Kenshi might be forced to elope with one of them over time.
Yeah, boy.
They head to an arena where the people have gathered to witness an official duel between two Sekishi baddies. The chicks get suited up in some special armor that measures the amount of damage dealt and get into the stage. During the fight, one of the girls gains the upper hand and is about to win, but the other quickly re-strategizes and kicks her out of the ring, disqualifying her immediately. After the duel, Kenshi is taken to a mansion and shown to his room. Although Chia specifically warns him to stay put, he sneaks out of the mansion and heads straight into the forest. There he wanders around, tasting different fruits and picking up mushrooms. Eventually, he runs into some random elves who suddenly start jumping him. Thanks to his natural skills in martial arts, he's able to stand his ground. When the men attempt to take things to the next level, Aura, their leader, shows up. She tells her men to back down and that Kenshi is Lashera's attendant. But they seem skeptical because all of Lashera's attendants should know that the forest is off limits. When they sift through the stuff he picked up, to their surprise, they find a rare silver mushroom, which costs a fortune. Kenshi, noticing how intrigued they are with the mushroom, decides that they can keep it, to their utmost shock. He tells Aura it's a small price to pay, considering she had saved his life. Both of them then get into a deep conversation about the world's unfair system of marriage, which they both seem to be cool with. Later, when Kenshi heads back, he runs into Isekai'd, one of the few male Sekishi, lying hurt against a tree. Isekai'd claims to have simply gotten tired and lost all his energy. Kenshi immediately prepares some herbs passed down in his family as an heirloom and gives them to him as medicine. Isekai'd, upon taking the herbs, passes out immediately, forcing Kenshi to rush him to a clinic. At the clinic, although Isekai'd tries to intercede for Kenshi Dagmir, his younger brother gets really furious and sends Kenshi out. Leaving the clinic, Kenshi heads back home, but runs into Yukine on the way, who notices his foul mood. When he explains what happened, Yukine sympathizes with him and tells him not to take it personally. Kenshi asks her thoughts about getting married to a stranger, and she explains that she doesn't really mind, as long as it helps reduce the need for war. Suddenly, Chia shows up, pissed, and yanks him back to the mansion. The following day, Kenshi checks up on Isekai'd to see how he's doing, and to his surprise, he has fully recovered. The herbs had just slowed down metabolism in his body, only to lead to a faster recovery. Isekai'd invites him in for a brief conversation to pay him back for his hospitality. While they discuss, Isekai'd randomly brings up matters about the Huz and notices how Kenshi gets tensed up. He then tries to pry to find out which of the girls he secretly goons to, but Kenshi storms out immediately. Later that night in the mansion, the hot springs develop some sort of issues, so Lashera is taken to a fancy bathroom to have her bath. She refuses to use the bathroom, so Chia, Kenshi, and Shum are made to check what could have gone wrong with the springs. While Chia and Shum fix it, they realize that Kenshi has slipped away. After restoring the spring waters, Chia finds Kenshi staring at a bunch of shiny stones, so she whacks him on the head. As a result, Kenshi falls into the water, which leads him to the exact sector where the princess is having her bath. Slipping through the water passage, he falls unconscious on top of Lashera. Realizing that Kenshi could get skinned alive if reports about the incident get to the higher-ups in the city, they all decide to keep it a secret. The following day, a ceremony is held in which Chia and a couple of other Sekishi baddies get anointed as official warriors. Among the multitude, Chie gets chosen as the leader, since Kenshi cannot be paid by the kingdom, since it'd require his true identity, which he's hell-bent on keeping secret. Lashera suggests that he works part-time in the academy's dorms. He doesn't feel the need to, as he doesn't need money to survive. As a matter of fact, he goes hunting every morning and always comes back with lots of meat and ingredients. When Lashera points out that he might need some bucks when it's time to go back to his world, he switches up and accepts the job offer gladly. Later that day, when he heads to the dorm, he meets Mizaya and a bunch of her female students, who seem pretty intrigued to see him. Not used to being around that many chicks, Kenshi dips immediately and heads straight to the dorm. At the dorm, he meets the principal, who briefs him about his duties before leading him inside. When they get in, she hands him over to the other staff, who underestimate his abilities as he's still a youngster. But since the principal already vouched for him, they decide to give him the benefit of the doubt. When he's first put to work in the girls' dormitory by cleaning and arranging the rooms, he surpasses the staff's expectations. Next, he gets taken to the laundry room to assist with laundry duties. When he starts working, all the staff around pause their duties and watch in astonishment as he completes what would normally take them hours to complete in only a few minutes. Similarly, he gets taken to the construction site, and you guessed it right, he solos once more. Later that evening, while Kenshi heads back to work from an errand, he runs into Aura, who informs him about an incident with some bullies. Some of them had bullied one of her students and thrown away a valuable handkerchief that belonged to her family. The handkerchief had gotten caught over the edge of a cliff, making it nearly impossible to reach. While Aura considers reporting it to the school authority, Kenshi dives off the cliff and uses some runes to support himself while he retrieves the handkerchief. When he gets back up, Aura scolds him for being too reckless, but he assures her that even a dimwit like him would not have made the move if he wasn't sure of his survival. Apparently, rumors of Kenshi's talents have been spreading around the academy, and he has now become quite popular among the Huz. One day, while Kenshi works in the kitchen, he gets beckoned to make a food delivery and heads to the address immediately. On getting there, he is surprised to meet Aura and Lithia, a smoking hot teacher. He greets them politely and heads back after delivering the food, which they end up enjoying more than they expected. On his way back to work, Kenshi gets stopped by a bunch of girls who surround him and start to touch him rigorously. As a result, he is forced to run, but the girls, not wanting to miss their chance to get freaky, chase him through the academy. The chase leads them into the forest where the majority of the girls collapsed from exhaustion. Aura and some other students are summoned to help retrieve the girls from the forest, but whenever they arrive, they're shocked to see that the same Kenshi whom the girls were pursuing was also the one who rescued all of them from the forest. After a while, Lashera and Mizaya pull some strings, which lead to Kenshi getting promoted to a new job. When he arrives at the address, he meets Mizaya, who introduces him to the concept of the job. According to her, he is going to be in charge of washing the hair and bodies of Sekishi baddies. Kenshi rejects the offer point blank and tries to dip, but gets stopped by Lashera and Chia, who point out that it'd get him a step closer to returning to his world. Knowing that he doesn't have experience doing that kind of job, Mizaya seizes the opportunity and pulls him inside the bathroom to demonstrate what the job entails. Lashera and Chia are forced to listen while Mizaya maxes out her kinks with the poor boy. By the time she finishes, Kenshi has been rewired into a massage machine that strictly follows her instructions. Mizaya then decides to rest on her latest project, ordering him to give full body massages to Chia and a bunch of random girls. As a result of the massage, the girls lose their minds to pleasure and become practically useless, like you losers, immediately after you're done gooning. Some complaints get filed against him, but some requests he receives from other women cancel out the complaints. One evening, Kenshi is taken to a large bathroom to wash the backs of some girls. He tries to sneak out, but gets stopped. When the girls see him, they crowd around him, practically ignoring all the other staff members. They form a queue and make him wash their backs one at a time. Some of the girls even try to make him wash their melons, but he turns down the offer politely. While he washes their backs, he notices a crest symbol on each of the girls and wonders what it could be. Afterwards, Isekai'd meets up with Kenshi, who is now terribly drained from having to please so many baddies at once. When he brings up the crest symbols he saw on the girls, Isekai'd tells him it's a sign of them wanting to do freaky stuff with him. Mizaya, who is being chased by Chia and a bunch of other women she made Kenshi take care of, shows up suddenly, showing up on one of Shum's new machines. The girls have come to teach Mizaya a lesson for her actions, but seeing Kenshi with her, they decide to make it the two of them. Kenshi and Mizaya immediately slip away into the forest, causing the girls to fire destructive weapons at them. As a result of the massive destruction around the academy, the principal learns of it, so she summons the people involved into her office and orders them to repair everything they have destroyed, or else they won't be allowed back into the academy. Given Shum's experience, he gets put in charge of the repairs, and the girls are forced to comply. Since the academy is currently short-staffed, Some new staff have been hired to assist with schoolwork, but when the staff arrive, something seems off about them. With Kenshi in charge, the rest of the girls barely break a sweat throughout the whole process. Most of them just sit around, having girls talk, while watching Kenshi personally handle the repairs. In no time, he finished the whole process. In the aftermath, while the girls take their baths at the fancy bathroom where Kenshi works, he is made to stay close by in case anyone needs his help. After a while, the girls decide that they don't need his service, but as he tries to leave, they switch up and rip his clothes apart, forcing him to get into the bath with them. Having completed the repairs, Mizaya shared that they can finally resume at the academy, and the rest get excited. While Kenshi relaxes in the bath, Shia notices some minor bruises on his hands. When she confronts him about it, he simply tells her he got them while handling the repairs. But given the kind of person he is, she knows it's unlikely. Later that evening, a report gets to her about some random holes that have been found around the area, and she immediately assumes that Kenshi is responsible. When it's nighttime, she and Lashera see him running deep into the woods, so they follow him. They witness him crawl into a hole beneath some bushes and ambush him when he crawls back out. They are surprised to learn that Kenshi has been digging holes all around the area in search of crystals. When they ask about his obsession with shiny objects, Kenshi tells them about how his sister had a spaceship made of crystals back at home. Surprised, Lashera points out that even in a parallel world, people in their timeline wouldn't have access to crystals, meaning he must have come from the future. When Kenshi shows them a fragment of his sister's spaceship that she had given him as a necklace, Shia accidentally snaps it. He immediately starts crying, so she promises him to find a way to fix it immediately. While she takes the necklace to all the blacksmiths she knows, to her surprise, they admit that the crafting pattern of the necklace is beyond what they recognize and that they won't be able to fix it. Frustrated, she heads back home, but runs into Maria, Yukine, and Ulight, who offer to help. Scanning through the properties, Ulight and Yukine admit that it's beyond repair, but Maria remarks that they could just replace the chain with a braided string. Shia gets interested, but is a little bothered as she's too clumsy to make one. Still, she decides to lock in for Kenshi. One night, while Kenshi heads out to continue digging for crystals, he runs into an intruder who suddenly attacks him. While he tries to subdue the person, another intruder shows up and attacks him, so he loses both of them. Due to his sharp senses, he's able to track down their movements. He runs into Dagnir on the way, who directs him towards the direction the intruder had fled to. When he arrives, he finds out that that particular intruder is just a decoy. Apparently, Dagnir had hidden the identity of the real one, as she's his attendant, Emira. Emira had stolen an important document from the academy under Dagnir's orders, not wanting his pursuit to go to waste. Kenshi tries to apprehend the intruder, but the individual slips away. Mizaya shows up shortly in the woods with her plots out. She explains that she had equally followed reports about an intruder, but Kenshi can't seem to get past the fact that she's effortlessly flashing him. They then head back together. The following day, word gets out about the stolen document, but it turns out that the information contained is not important, making it a failed robbery attempt like Dochi's Grammy nominations. Still, they decide that the intruder must be caught. Later that week, the principal talks Lashera into enrolling Kenshi in school, rather than just making him work aimlessly. She tries to use the cost of enrollment as an excuse, but the principal points out that the money he has been making from his side jobs would be more than enough to cover his tuition. Left with no choice, she agrees and Kenshi gets enrolled. On his first day in school, Kenshi runs into Lars, the girl whose handkerchief he retrieved from the cliff the other day, and she happily agrees to give him a tour of the school. While she gives him the tour, Lashera and Chia get paranoid, so they shadow them. They get more bitter seeing how Kenshi has already effortlessly pulled the entire huzz in the school. While they try to stalk further, they run into Mizaya, who bundles them out. In class, Kenshi remembers Chia's advice and specially greets the nobles and male students in the class after doing the general introduction. After class, he meets a friendly classmate named Tight, who gives him tips on what to do to have an easy school life. Meanwhile, Chia is still pushing herself beyond her limits, trying to make the braided string for Kenshi's necklace. She gets confronted by Dagnir, who happens to be her old crush. Dagnir asks why she's pushing herself beyond her limits for a servant, and she cannot come up with a definitive answer. Later that day at school, Kenshi's class gets to a physical combat period, and Mizaya is made to check his sword fighting abilities as the new student. Knowing his abilities, most of the school staff stop by to witness the outcome of the duel. To their surprise, Kenshi seems to lack the elementary skills in sword fighting, despite his inhumane strength. He is then made to train alongside a group of girls. After a while, he gets cornered by some male nobles in his class who are sick of the amount of attention he has been getting. They gang up against him under the pretense of training, but somehow, none of them can land a single attack. They eventually get exhausted and give up, wondering what kind of person he is. After the class period, during break hours, Kenshi heads over to the dorm to assist with the chores, and the staff are really surprised to see him. Later, when he gets back to class, Maria, who happens to be his classmate, invites him and the other nobles in the class to eat together. During lunch, she addresses the other nobles to stop discriminating, as they're all classmates, and they agree. Lashera happens to hear about Kenshi having dinner with Maria, and she gets all sulky and stuff. Back at home that night, Chia presents the finished necklace to Kenshi, who accepts it willingly. When Maya, the help, teases her about the red string she had used, which signifies a love confession. She gets flustered and tries to snatch it back, but Kenshi refuses to hand it over. During class, Kenshi realizes that Maria isn't in her seat, so he asks Lapis why, and she tells him Maria has an emergency meeting with her fellow student council members. Such meetings are prioritized over classes. Meanwhile, at the meeting, the council members decide to have Kenshi join them in the ranks. Lashera starts by informing Kenshi that she's loaning him out to assist the student council members with odd jobs. She tells him that the jobs take priority and he shouldn't get close to Maria or do what she says. The next day, Lapis takes Kenshi to meet Lithia in the student council room. She calls him a wild beast for dawdling around, but when he tries to object, Lithia yells at him after remembering the trauma he caused her with his gifted hands. At that point, he accepts the title to prevent her from bawling her eyes out. He asks her if there's any job for him, but she makes him make an oath not to reveal anything done in the council to outsiders. After that, she tells him to come back later after school. After the meeting, he goes outside to meet Lapis and reassures her he doesn't think badly of Lithia after all. One of his sisters always wore a serious look like hers. During sports period, while the females learn how to swim, Kenshi and Isekai'd feast their eyes on their goodies. Kenshi sees the other male knights sunbathing, and he learns that they are exempt from physical activities due to their rarity. Isekai'd then reveals to the girls that Kenshi is a student council member. Because of this, his popularity skyrockets some more, and after sports period, the girls give the doofus a hot chase, while wanting to get cultured with him to get a premium taste of his glizzy. During that time, Dagnir gathers a group of other males who believe in his ideals. He asks Ceres to join in, but the boy refuses and excuses himself. As for Kenshi, he successfully escapes the mob and runs into the student council room. There, Lithia scolds him, but he sees she's not feeling too good, so he asks her if it's that time of the month. She calls him a wild beast for his language and tries to downplay her situation before explaining why she loves staying in the council room most of the time. Kenshi wonders why he's the only male in the council and why all he does is run around the school. Because Lithia doesn't know he's a knight, she tells him he's a decoy, needed to distract the schoolgirls. She says male knights are very rare and shouldn't be endangered, unlike him. Later that night, the girls host a meeting on how to get a hold of Kenshi for themselves. The next day, they show up with fishing nets and chase the daylights out of him. At one point, he gets cornered, which was Yukine's plan to get closer to him, but he scales through the walls and escapes. He then goes to the student council room and sees Lithia bedridden. She complains about wishing she were baptized, and she tries to continue her work. Lapis then offers to make her a cup of tea, and Kenshi decides to assist her. Kenshi then learns from Aura that baptism is the method of healing or recovery of one's body with a hu, but a goddess contract is required. Minutes later, Lithia falls asleep, and Ahau confirms Kenshi had a hand in the tea. He then hands the ingredients to Lapis and prescribes the medication to her. As soon as he leaves the student council room, other students continue their hot pursuit. Later that night, Kenshi learns more about the baptism and how the battle suit repairs are tied to the church. Elsewhere, Flora contacts Maria and asks her to know she's found something she likes. She also informs Maria about where she'll spend her summer holiday. The following day, while Lithia confirms her health condition has improved, the other schoolgirls continue their pursuit. The staff watch as the commotion continues, and they wonder if they should step in, but the principal advises them not to. After a while, Kenshi successfully runs into the student council room, and Lithia thanks him for the tea. Later that day, after helping with some menial jobs, the girls deploy some of Juan's inventions and use them to chase after him, so he enters the forest and uses the trees to stop them. Unfortunately, the bots have batteries, so they continue the chase. Thanks to Yukine's quick thinking, she helps Kenshi escape. She then advises him to stay till nightfall. While the others search for him, Aura tells Lashera that Kenshi isn't in the woods, so they head to Maria's place. There, Yukine tries to seduce Kenshi, but collapses while doing so. He quickly catches her from falling, but unfortunately for him, the others barge into the room and conclude he just helped himself with her. Minutes later, Maria holds a meeting where she tells Lashera to hand over Kenshi to her because he took her servant's first time. As she also reminds Lashera of the massage incident, the others who were prey to Kenshi's fingers suggest the two sides play a game on who gets to keep Kenshi. During that time, Dagnir continues with his schemes, and Isekai'd notices a signal from the forest. The next day, while the girls host the game, Isekai'd decides to oversee the event, and he tweaks the rules for Kenshi to earn his freedom by participating. The participants immediately dash into the forest, and by the time Lashera's faction returns with their basket, Isekai'd reveals their ingredients are poisonous. Kenshi, on the other hand, is ambushed by Wahan, who tries using a battle pseudo to snatch his basket, so he successfully lures her into a trap. Mezaya sees him, and after informing her about the competition, she kisses his bruised forehead as a form of treatment. Meanwhile, while Isekai'd screens their ingredients, he notices the signal on the radar getting stronger. After a short while, they prepare their dish, and after tying Kenshi's, they announce him the winner. After Lithia and Lapis leave, he shows the others his secret ingredients, and the girls freak out. They warn not to let Lithia know about it. Later that night, Lithia tries his tea once more and commends it. Days before summer vacation, Dagnir tries synchronizing with his battle suit, but he only reaches 20%. Isekai'd tells him it's as far back as he can get since the result is still the same as the last time. Dagnir feels insulted after being told indirectly that he cannot compete with Dahl. Still, Isekai'd tells him to stop being a bum and should enjoy his student life. On the last day of school, Isekai'd informs the underclassmen that they've been granted permission to leave the academy, even though that hasn't always been the case. As soon as he leaves the class, Kenshi learns from Ceres that male knights are exempt from the no vacation rule, and he'll be traveling alone. Meanwhile, Lashera tells Chia that she plans to stay in the dorm during the holidays. Unfortunately, Yukine shows up and hands her a communication device. The next day, her faction, alongside Maria's, head on a flying ship to Havoniwa, Flora's home country. The previous day, Flora had blackmailed her with her embarrassing photos into turning up, so she had no choice. On the way there, they come across a group of ships, and Kenshi spots Ceres, so he rushes to his side. Before reaching him, he overhears Crowdeline discussing with Ceres and Hazuki about getting them on board in Flora's country. After their meeting, Ceres spots Kenshi and then opens up about how his people have started alienating Hazuki ever since he became a knight. He pleads with Kenshi not to tell anyone about their plan to sneak through the gate, and Kenshi agrees. Meanwhile, Lan and other bandits observe the ship and then sight not only 2 battle suits but also Dagnir, a male knight, so they prepare to ambush. Minutes later, they arrive in the country and see Flora's embarrassing photos lined up to show them the way. Shia immediately hides Kenshi from the eccentric leader by ordering him to assist Wahan with unpacking. At the port, Kenshi finds out Wahan knows about Ceres, and to his surprise, she tells him she won't tell anyone. He happily hugs her and runs off. Seconds later, Flora shows up and reveals she heard their entire conversation. When Kenshi gets out, he sees Ceres' base, so he hurriedly goes there. On his way, he encounters some bandits and easily evades one of their onslaughts. After getting away, he notices they reek of blood. Meanwhile, Flora tries out Juan's latest invention, and she maneuvers it perfectly. She praised the tech whiz before telling her to touch some grass once in a while. By evening, Kenshi arrives at Ceres' villa, but then goes back after noticing a lot of cargo nearby. Later that night, Flora welcomes them with a pillow fight. There, the last person standing gets a huge amount of money and a kiss. At the start of the battle, Shia strikes her crush in the face, and as soon as she collapses, she has other ideas with his sausage. As for the royals, they try to take down Flora, but she outsmarts them with her wits. Kenshi easily unseals the maiden's plot armor and even stops Chia from getting a whiff of her old friend. Dagnir then tells her she has seen his saber countless times, but she won't have a free pass anymore. Kenshi, on the other hand, cups a feel out of Yukine thanks to Flora's assistance. To his surprise, the woman declares him the winner without facing him head-on. She then smooches him on the cheek and buries him in her melons. Later that night, during dinner, the cousins come up with a strategy to get back at Flora. They head to the bath and spot her trying to convince Kenshi for a massage, so Lashera hypnotizes him, and he helps the queen relax her nerves. Meanwhile, the bandits meet up and plan to carry out their plan the following day. Hazuki, whom they thought was asleep, overhears them. The next morning, all the inhabitants of Flora's mansion suffer from lack of sleep due to the queen's happy noises from Kenshi's handwork. During that time, Cordeline sedates the guards and gets her hands on a battle suit while Kenshi casually harvests herbs. He sees Hazuki being chased, so he intervenes and runs off with her. While at it, Hazuki briefs him about the bandits' plan, so he heads straight to Flora's mansion. As for Cordeline, she attacks the mansion's defense system, and one of her underlings tries to take them hostage. Unfortunately for him, Kenshi crashes into him worse than the London Bridge. He tells them how they plan to capture Dagnir, so he rushes to rescue Aura. When he gets to her, he sees her acting all timid, so he tries to get her out of there. But she tells him to take responsibility for seeing her forbidden fruit. She suddenly snaps back to her normal self, and they defeat the incoming bandits. Outside, Kenshi lures the bandits and uses the mech to take them down while Aura and Wahan fight Crowdeline. As Chia rushes to Dagnir's residence, Lan, who's there, tells him to come with her. To her surprise, Dagnir tells her he'd like to employ them. Meanwhile, Kenshi goes to meet Flora to rescue her, but she goes crazy on his glizzy while he drives the battle pseudo to fend off Cordeline. Suddenly, Lan informs Cordeline that she has successfully captured Dagnir, so she signals for a retreat, realizing Dagnir has been kidnapped. Kenshi tells them where he thinks the knights are, and they decide to trust his instincts. While they head there, Dagnir discusses with Cordeline the benefit of them working under him, but she tells him she wants him to act as a stud for her bandits. Once he sees she's in on the game, he shows her he's different from other nobles, so he asks her to send her guards out while they work things out. After giving her his seed, she agrees to work with him, so they make preparations before Kenshi's group arrives. When they arrive, they see the hostages being taken into a container, so they distract them and drive off with the vehicle without knowing that they've moved according to the bandits' plan. Outside, Kenshi learns that Lashera and the girls were already aware of Sears and Hazuki's situation. Lashera then shocks them by letting them go scot-free. After summer break ended, the students return to the academy. Meanwhile, one of the bandits, named Lan, disguises herself as one of them, but she can't keep her hands to herself. One time, Kenshi sees her stealing, so he hurriedly returns what she stole to the owner. Lan notices him, and he piques her curiosity. Elsewhere in the Holy Land, the group of bandits dines and celebrates how easy it was for them to sneak into the city with Dagnir's help. Meanwhile, in the inner quarters, Cordeline confides to Dagnir that she didn't think he was Chad enough to get them into the Holy Land. He then reminds her that he told her he was the very definition of different. She agrees to it and levels up her cougar skills. Back in the school grounds, Lan meets up privately with Kenshi and offers him an opportunity to use his hands wisely, but he refuses and leaves her. Meanwhile, at Dagnir's residence, he has a mock battle with other male knights, and Isekai'd tells him to suggest a warrior tournament among the school members to the student council. The next day, Dagnir tells them, and the council members readily accept it. He later reports it to Isekai'd and asks for a favor, but the uncle gives him a condition. After Dagnir leaves, Isekai'd asks to confirm if the people Dagnir brought into the Holy Land are reliable for his plans. Later that night at Dagnir's dorm, Emra tries to discipline Lan for standing out by stealing a lot of jewelry, but she gets Uno reversed. Dagnir walks in on them and orders Lan not to mess up his plans. He throws her a piece of jewelry and assures her Cordelinese is doing fine. That same night, Lashera laughs like a maniac as she calculates the cash she can make from the tournament participation, while Chia finds it weird that the event is happening too soon. The next day, most of the students register for the tournament, and some are screened out. A lot of them make it to the preliminary, and as they clean the arena, Kenshi learns about the only completely excavated battle suit from Straya, which is known as the symbol of power. Lashera, on the other hand, goes through the list of games and excitedly anticipates Kenshi's. The next day, while Kenshi does his odd jobs, Emira shows up and thanks him for saving Dagnir. She then wishes they won't turn out as enemies. After she leaves, Mizaya shows up and puts Kenshi on a leash. She drags him off after showing the others her permission to gatekeep him till the tournament begins. When Lashera finds out about it, she gets mad because Mizaya and the others have ruined her plans to make money using Kenshi. Mizaya then has Kenshi under house arrest. She follows him everywhere, and once she sees he's shy of showing her his little Johnny, she helps him get rid of his timid nature by taking away his first time. The next day, the tournament begins, and while Lashera's friends keep on winning, Lashera realizes she'll be in lots of debt if Kenshi wins, so she comes up with a strategy to make him lose. Moments before his marathon race, Lashera slips a note containing the rules to the game. He reads it, and immediately the race commences. He stays behind and counts from 1 to 10,000. Thankfully, Lithia sees him, so she stops him and orders him to run. Lashera deploys other tactics to get him to deviate from the course to buy others enough time to win the race. The plan doesn't last long, and when Kenshi gets back on track, he runs past most of the students, including Dagnir, who retires and speaks with Chia. As the race progresses, Kenshi catches up to Aura, but then he thinks about the pretty girl who took him off the course, so the idiot slows down his pace. Chia spots him and hurriedly goes to him, threatening him that she'll get rid of all his crystals if he loses. The fear causes him to lock in, so he picks up his pace like Truck Kun, and not only runs past Aura, but also his responsibilities. Worried, the girls intervene to get him to return for his prize, but he gets blown away. After a while, Aura feeds him water with her mouth and then tries to confess her feelings to him, but Chia ruins the sweet moment by showing up. Wahan then transports them towards the arena. Later that night, Dagnir and Lan analyze the Holy Land, and they plan to get rid of Kenshi to attain their goal. Emra warns them not to do it, but Dagnir shuts her up. Isekai'd then corrects them not to think about facing Kenshi head-on, else they'll be schooled. Isekai'd then advises them to handle the situation without confronting Kenshi, and they decide to honor his word. After they leave, he speaks to a voice and notes that Emra is scheming something. That same night, a hooded figure attacks Kenshi in the forest, but he easily parries her attack. Desperate, she apologizes and tries falling with him into a booby trap, but another masked lady rescues him. He thanks her, but she tells him she was aware he would have gotten himself out without her help. The next day, the students see a huge flying castle heading to their school. The night before, Dagnir commences his plan, and the bandits easily rope up the security men. They go through the computers and talk about how lax the security is. Concerned, he asks Emire, but Lan insults her. Suddenly, Isekai'd's aide joins them, and Dagnir warns Lan to drop her guard. The next day, the students watch as the castle floats and an explosion goes off nearby. The male knights under Dagnir pour out in their battle suits and attack the Holy Land security system. Hana learns the truth after witnessing Dagnir talking about conquest. She immediately escapes and calls Dagnir a joke for thinking he can take over the land with just the control room. Meanwhile, in Lashera's residence, Lashera complains as she wonders how Babylon found his way into the Holy Land. she gets a call from the principal, who asks for an explanation. But Lashera explains that she doesn't have anything to do with the situation on the ground. The principal then asks for her cooperation, and she resumes control over the evacuation team. After the call, Lashera orders Kenshi to act as a decoy for their friends to be rescued. After he leaves, Shia notices the attack pattern of one of the battle suits and realizes it's Dagmir, who initially attacked Lashera's people back in Seiya. Kenshi runs straight to the workshop and sees Wahan working on another battle suit prototype. He picks an available one despite it not having any armor and uses it to knock out the bandits spying on them. He then charges straight into the forest to rescue Aura, who is half asleep. He makes a grand entrance and kicks out the bandits before grabbing Aura and zooming off in his vehicle. As they head back to the student grounds, they see one of her soldiers injured from facing Dagnir and other male knights. Aura realizes their battle suit isn't harmed, so they prepare for the worst. Luckily, the school's defense system kicks in and shoots at the male knights, granting the injured elf time to escape. The defense system shoots at the floating tower, and Babylon orders all battle suits in his command to be dispatched into battle. Suddenly, he receives a transmission from Flora, who learns of his presence on the holy ground. He dares her to try to stop him, and to his surprise, she uses an armored train to shoot at his flying fortress. While at it, Flora contacts the principal to inform her that she's aiding her. Meanwhile, at the school grounds, the male knights continue their rampage, so Lithia tries getting into a battle suit to face them, but Lapis stops her, warning her how dangerous it is. Unfortunately for them, they are spotted, so one of the knights shoots them down, or so he thought. From nowhere, Kenshi appears and saves them. He leaves the Kikujin for Aura to handle and runs off. When the male knights see him, they laugh at him, thinking he's chickened out. Mazaya, on the other hand, instructs her students to help with the evacuation process and also assists the injured. Out of the corner of her eye, she spots Chia climbing the stairs and watching as the battle unfolds with disbelief. They suddenly notice Kenshi running off and other male knights chasing after him. Dagnir, who is aware Kenshi is a knight, sees him charging right to the battlesuit Lithia had tried using earlier, so he tries to shoot Kenshi. Luckily, Wahan spots him and shoots at him first. When Kenshi gets to the cocoon, he touches it in front of everyone, and the battlesuit reacts to him. Lashera, who gets a report on the evacuation process, sees Kenshi entering the battlesuit. Immediately, Kenshi uses the boy's light attributes, and the principal comments that there's a church that believes the white battlesuit shall save the world. Unlike the dark version, in one move, Kenshi takes out a battlesuit. He then one-shots a lot of them, leaving Dagnir as his final snack. As Kenshi charges in on the noble, other bandits rain down bullets on him to stop him. As a result, he retreats into the arena, so they follow him. There, he skillfully takes them out one after the other. His erratic movements shock everyone, and as soon as the girls realize Kenshi is a knight, their love meter skyrockets. Meanwhile, Ulite and Mizaya watch Kenshi take down the battle suit, and Mizaya stares at him with no color in her eyes. As Kenshi takes down the last male knights, Babylon arrives at the center of the Holy Land, and he synchronizes his flying fortress with it. The Holy Land suffers from the vibration, and it buys Dagnir enough time to escape with Lan. The principal realizes a little too late what he's up to. At that same time frame, Shia notices something is wrong with Mizaya, so she calls out to her. Unfortunately, Babylon reveals that Mizaya isn't her sister, but a creation like a battle suit. By the time Mizaya snaps out of it, Babylon orders her, and she transforms against her will into Doll. Doll then heads straight for the battle suit relic in the tournament, and it absorbs one of the parts of the fallen battle suit. Shia tries calling out to her sister, but Doll tells her to evacuate the rest of the students. She then enters the giant mecha and fights Kenshi. He reacts to her attacks, and just when she tries to land another hit, her mecha stops. She then wonders if it's because of the time she spent with him. During that period, the students evacuated the area, and they left Kenshi to handle her. Doll then tries to convince Kenshi to join her side, but he tells her to come over to his. She refuses, saying she's been created to fight and that's all she can do. The students who have all evacuated into Swan, a floating land ship, wonder how to get Kenshi out of the mess. Suddenly, Flora fires a huge cannon at the battle suits, and Maria quickly warns him about it. He evades the attack at the dying moments, but the blast knocks him off, and he miraculously escapes alongside Lashera and her faction. Suddenly, they see other battle suits charge towards them, so Lashera orders Kenshi to fight back. Unfortunately, his battlesuit cocoon has frozen up, so they wonder how to go about it. To their surprise, Flora pushes a button and it decimates a cliff, which nearly turns them into mashed cheese. Fortunately, they escape, and it gets rid of their targets. Kenshi then realizes he forgot his dear crystals in the Holy Land. As he slips up, Shia gives him a hot chase, while reminding him he broke her promise to her, back at the ruined Holy Land. Ulite meets with Babylon and worriedly asks about how Kenshi might mess up with his plans, but the former tells him not to worry. On the floating lands, Kenshi's popularity skyrockets among the females, and they all want to taste his seeds. Shia, on the other hand, is far too deep in thought that all she thinks about is Dagnir. When she goes outside, Emra shows her a communication device from Dagnir. Inside, Leshera Lashera reveals to the principal and Wahan that Kenshi is from another world. Back in the Holy Land, Alan and Cliff discuss how they plan to conquer Shirafan, Aura's country, and Havaniwa. They note how many are okay with just the Holy Land, and some have run away after the scary battle with Kenshi. Lan shows up and warns them to be careful with her bandit's precious treasure. Meanwhile, as the floating islands dock at a nearby port, Wahan decides to show Kenshi how to make a compressed weapon. He gets into his battle suit and grabs a huge rock and then compresses it instantly with a hu. Shia watches him suspiciously, and later that night, she sneaks into his tent and tries to stab Kenshi with a sword. It was a request she had gotten from Dagnir to help him gain his freedom. At the last second, Shia changes her mind and leaves the tent. Outside, she sees Lashera, who asks her why she didn't finish the job. Shia then mentions how she couldn't bring herself to do it. The following day, Shia heads back to the Holy Land with Emira, and Emira warns her that she might not be accepted because she couldn't fulfill Dagnir's request. When Lashera learns of this, she sees it as the perfect opportunity to head back, so she breaks all protocols and goes back to the land. Shia arrives and tries convincing Dagnir to stop what he's doing and follows her, but he refuses and tells her of his plan to rule. By that time, she realizes that he's far too gone. Dagnir hugs Shia and takes out the communication device in her pocket. He then speaks to Lashera, who's on the other end, and tells her he's an idealist. Lashera happily informs him that she won't hold back against him. Suddenly, the swan arrives at the Holy Land, but it crashes into the ground at the nearby camp because of the vacuum of Ina that Dagnir had created beforehand. Immediately, he orders the knights to destroy the swan's ship's prism reactor. As the bots charge at the ship, Wahan knocks a few out with gunpowder. She then engages another battle suit in combat. Meanwhile, Kenshi sneaks out and easily takes down the bandits. Shia then whoops a guard and tosses him at Dagnir, who was about to shoot Kenshi. Angrily, he tells Emra to capture and end Kenshi. Kenshi, on the other hand, takes a detour while running away with Chia, and he uses a battle suit. He immediately picks up a gun and a rock. Then he compresses the rock and shoots at the device buried in the ground, which is responsible for sucking the Ina in the air. After destroying it, Swan takes off again, but they are suddenly attacked by a huge beam. They luckily escape its range and decide to escape after seeing that the attack came from Dahl's black shield. Dagnir orders her to go after them, but she refuses and informs him how it took her a lot of effort to get to him. He calls her useless, but she tells him to take a good look at himself in the mirror. He tries arguing with her, but she tells him she can make him a war casualty. On the ship, Shia apologizes for acting selfishly, and Lashera forgives her. She then reveals that Nizai had told them beforehand about Dagnir's trap. When asked what's next, Lashera laughs like she's got a few screws loose and talks about remaining hidden from the rest of the world. Kenshi then asks her if she won't come up with an excuse for the church. Meanwhile, the church fathers argue about how to get rid of the Holy Land to prevent Babylon's forces from proceeding to other nations. As they come up with strategies, their leader, the Pope, tells them that Gaia has been unsealed, so they plan to send their special forces. The next day, Wahan briefs Kenshi about their movement to Shirafan and tells him to assist her with the Kikujin's maintenance. During that time, Lashera sees Chia spying on them, so she asks her what's up and urges her to apologize to him if that's what's bothering her. Later, the swan arrives at Shirafan, and they learn that the church has asked each country for help in recapturing the Holy Land. Lashera then learns that Skutriyu, her home country, will be put under collaborative management. They schedule a meeting with the king for the next day, and they are treated as guests of honor. After a while in the guest residence, Lashera's faction discusses what it means for their nation to lose its sovereignty, but Lashera acts like she doesn't care. She admits the thing pissing her off is the fact that she can't slug Babylon in the face. Later that evening, Kenshi sneaks around the castle in search of Aura. When he sees where she is, he takes Lashera there. There, Lashera privately speaks with Aura, but Aura feels bad that Kenshi didn't show up himself, but she remembers he's an airhead. The next day, they meet with the king of Shirafan, and he tells them that he is the only nation aside from Skutriyu who wants to lend the church power to fight alongside Kenshi. But then he is also sure if Kenshi is dependable. Suddenly, Aura walks into the meeting and asks her father to test Kenshi. The next day, Aura's guards take Kenshi around the forest to get him familiar with it. They tell him he'll have to race against the tribe to prove himself worthy. Later that night, he tries sneaking into the forest, but Chia sees him and then tries to apologize to him. But when she sees the pendant on his neck, she remembers the ribbon she used to tie it and how it was said to be romantic. She then encourages him to do his best the following day. The next day, Lashera bets on Kenshi while the others bet on their king. The race commences and all of them run through the forest. As the king moves through different checkpoints, he learns that Kenshi has gone ahead of him, so he braces up and runs to the finish line. When he gets there, he realizes he won the race. Seconds later, Kenshi casually arrives with a bag full of herbs. Lashera yells at him for making her lose. Then the king also attacks him for not taking the competition seriously, but he easily grabs his sword. Seeing how likable and strong Kenshi is, the king congratulates him and announces him the winner of the competition. He tells him he'll be handing Aura to him to marry. Aura blushes and readily agrees alongside Lashera, who wants to deepen connections with Shirafan. Somewhere not too far away, Dagnir uses a new ability from his battle suit to destroy a temple, and he commands his squad to destroy Shirafan's palace. As they destroy the palace, the citizens of Shirafan watch them from afar. The king then thanks Kenshi for showing up and accepting the challenge because it's the reason they weren't caught in the ambush. The king then asks Kenshi to help evacuate his people while he and his forces fend against Dagnir. The guest quickly helps in evacuation, and Kenshi suggests assisting the forces fight Dagnir, but Aura tells him her father can handle it. He sees she's nervous, so he has other ideas. While the king battles Dagnir, he spots the black battle suit and tries to fight it. Dal easily folds him like laundry and tosses him like he's dirt. The black battle suit feasts on his arm and then tries to devour him wholly. But to everyone's surprise, Kenshi shows up in a white battle suit. He then battles Dal while the king retreats. But Dal easily fends off all his attacks thanks to Gaia's shield. Dagnir tries to unalive him, but Kenshi easily swats him off like a pesky fly. Kenshi then lands a critical hit that even Gaia's shield can't withstand the strain. The others then contact Kenshi and tell him to retreat since they've successfully evacuated their people. After that, the king tells him to marry his daughter, and Lashera agrees, on the condition that she gets to rule over Shirafan. The king then reminds her that Babylon, their adversary, is currently the prime minister in her country. He urges her to release Kenshi to compensate for the troubles Babylon has caused them. Suddenly, a guard reports that Babylon is attacking the church in Havaniwa. The guests immediately head there, and the king orders his daughter to join them. Shortly after heading in the church's direction, they see a distress signal fired from the church's ship, which is currently under attack, so they charge there. The ship's pilot enters the cockpit and escapes in a pod. Kenshi sees her, rescues her, and brings her over to Swan. She wakes up shortly after and introduces herself as Leia. She pinches Kenshi's cheek while explaining the situation to the rest, and then steps on him as she walks off. Leia explains that the reason Babylon can go so far is because of the black battle suit. She tells Lashera that Kenshi can't defeat Gaia yet, so they'll need to head to the field workshop because the members of the church have lost communication with the others. The Pope decides to carry out their plans. Back on Swan, Kenshi speaks with Leia, and he opens up about his family to her. While at it, the girls stalk him to know if Leia wants to wiggle her way to the top of his list. Meanwhile, Dagnir commands more bandits, and one of them tells Cliff that they've captured Sears. As for Lashera and her squad, they head towards Havaniwa, and as they pass through the Meteor Falls, they arrive at Havaniwa and see how Dagnir and the bandits have demolished the capital. Lashera pays her respect with the goal that she gets to ruling over them. As the Inn tries to navigate itself out of the place, the bridges and hills around it crumble. The ship tries to get out of the place, but all the routes get blocked. Suddenly, Cordyline shows up with a special ship that tries to crush them with huge rocks. Kenshi and the rest try attacking the base of the ship, but the draft and the height make it hard for them. Suddenly, Yukine blitzes from above and shoots the ship, forcing it to reduce its altitude. It reaches Kenshi's attack range, so it destroys some of its floating prism, causing it to crash. Yukine then escorts them to Flora's hideouts, and as soon as she sees Kenshi, she gives him a good squish with her bazingas and asks him about their wedding. Lashera then tries to get to business with her, but Flora gaslights Maria into handling Hakaniwa's business so that she can have a good time wringing out all of Kenshi's mayonnaise. After a while, Flora learns of Babylon's attacks so far and realizes that things weren't as bad as she thought. Lashera then asks them to ally to stop Babylon, and Flora agrees, but on the condition that Kenshi gets to lead and decide whose orders he'll listen to. For the first time, Lashera gets shaken after realizing that her male knight will no longer be for her to control any longer. Later that evening during dinner, Lashera didn't show up, so Kenshi and Chia go to her room to talk to her, but she doesn't come out. They leave her, and Chia tells him to ask for everyone's opinion regarding the decision he wants to make. He then asks around, and they all tell him they'll follow him if he wants to do. During bedtime, as he thinks about the next step to take, he sees Lashera at her balcony, so he parkours his way there. She tries to avoid him, but then reveals how fragile she is behind her smile. Kenshi pets her head and assures her she won't lose him. He then thanks her for giving him a place to stay. An idea suddenly pops into his mind, and he asks her to sell Swan to him. The next day, they host a meeting, and he tells everyone that the floating ship belongs to him. He tells them they are more than welcome to join in, but the shop is now a sovereign nation. To his surprise, they all agree with him and vow to tag along with him, including the cougar of a queen. After the meeting, he has a round-table discussion with his friends, and they decide to establish some ground rules that his cave instincts aren't okay with. After the ground rules, the girls host another meeting where they plan to go to the field workshop. Meanwhile, Kenshi gathers lots of dense metals and compresses them into bullets. While at it, they are all informed of 4 battle suits charging at them. By observing the battle suits, they realize one of them is Sears, who is currently being pursued and under attack by the others. As soon as Kenshi sees that Sears is in danger, he rushes straight to rescue him, ignoring his friend's warning. When he gets there, he shoos the enemies away and then tries to help Sears. To his surprise, he gets bound to Sears, and the others realize it was a trap. They quickly rush to their battle suit to help while Lashera and Maria listen to Kenshi and Sears' conversation. Sears apologizes to Kenshi and reveals that he and Hazuki were caught, and he was tasked to lure him out. Leia then spots the seal behind Sears and realizes it's a replica of the original experiment, which exploded and created a huge crater in the holy Holy Land. The seal suddenly activates, and it absorbs Ina and Ahu around it, fueling itself to a large degree to the point of explosion. Moments before then, Ceres cries and apologizes to Kenshi. After hearing how vile Dagnir's men are, Kenshi gets mad and orders Aura to back off. He struggles internally, and his battle suit's color changes from white to black. He tears through the cord, grabs the seal, compresses it, and throws it far away. It explodes loudly, and the bandits rejoice, thinking they've gotten rid of the male knights. To their surprise, Kenshi charges straight at them and plows through the other battle suits. He fights on pure rage and tosses Cliff off his namesake. Dagnir wets his pants as Kenshi charges at him. Luckily, the plot protects him, and Kenshi's battle suit breaks down as it cannot handle the pilot's rage. Still, Kenshi chases after him, but Emira snags Dagnir up and flies off. The rest of Kenshi's friends are surprised to see him act that way, and they note that his being the black battle suit doesn't mean he'll destroy the world but himself. Later that evening, Kenshi tells Ceres and Hazuki that they are free to stay in the Swan. After all, it's an independent nation. The next day, Swan leaves Havaniwa for the field workshop, and as they greet Flora goodbye, Lashera laughs like a maniac as she vows to utilize every last drop of Ceres. Everyone stares at her judgmentally, and she tells them to hear her out. After a long while, they arrive at the field workshop and meet Professor Nawashi. Curious, he asks Kenshi to follow him, but all of a sudden Leia collapses. Kenshi picks her up and takes her to the lab. Meanwhile, in the Holy Land, Dagnir remains bedridden as he traumatically recalls Kenshi ripping off other battle suits. Back at the lab, Nawashi enlightens everyone about how the mecha battle suit came to be. Back then, they were only used to show cultural differences and then for advancement purposes. But as time went on, humans made the boys fight in arenas. Hence, they became fighter bots. During that time, a lot of casualties occurred due to it being powered by humans, so they created humans with the cores to remotely control the bots. At one point, the bots revolted and led to a great cataclysm. Almost all mecha bots were wiped out except Gaia. Currently, Doll and a group of battle suits head to the field of workshop. There, a test is carried out on Kenshi, but before the results are ready, Wahan asks Hazuki and Ceres to help with the offloading of the new supplies. Nawashi continues his explanation and narrates how Mazaya and one other humanoid challenged and defeated Gaia. After thousands of years, she was found as a youngster, so he raised her like his daughter. Shia remembers all the good times she spent with Mazaya while growing up, and asks her father why Babylon can easily control Mazaya. He tells her Babylon must have gotten his hands on some safety excavated records. Curious, Lashera asks what kind of person Babylon is, but before he can respond, they are alerted and told about a breach in their security. Nawashi then informs them that there were 3 humanoids created in history. One had died during the battle with Gaia, and Mazaya was the second one. But before he could mention the third, a huge fault hit them, so they evacuated. While at it, they run into a room to get a device that can be used to defeat Gaia, and they see Leia standing above fallen guards, holding the device. She then uses a flashbang before vanishing. Meanwhile, Wahan tries to take the invaders on, but they use a shield similar to Gaia's to offset the attack. Kenshi, on the other hand, rushes to his friends, but then runs into Leia. He tries dragging her away from harm, but when Nawashi and Shia show up, Leia puts on a mask, revealing she's Nizai, and makes a getaway. Before Kenshi can chase after her, Mazaya shows up and snatches the professor. Kenshi quickly carries Chia and runs to board a vehicle to the nearest battlesuit cocoon. While Wahan and the rest try to hold off the other battlesuits, Kenshi races like his life depends on it. He gets into his cocoon and emerges as the white battlesuit. In one move, he does the legendary John Cena move and takes down the battlesuit, obstructing his nation from making a getaway. With the road clear, they hurriedly get out of the ground, but unfortunately for them, 2 battlesuits demolish a huge chunk of earth to crush the Swan. While the girls soak their loins, Kenshi holds the rock and compresses it into pellets. He loads it into his gun and fires it at the battlesuits. To their surprise, it tears off their shields, so they run for their lives. In the Holy Land, Lan leads the bandits and schemes with them while Dagnir cowers in his bed. Emira warns you Light that it's okay for Lan to continue, but he doesn't mind. At the Swan, Shia walks about, unable to bear in mind that her dad got captured. Lashera logically tells her that Mazaya can't hurt Nawashi. They host a meeting, and Wahan reveals that what Nizai had taken was the core crystal data and the formatting apparatus. It's a device that is used will terminate artificial humans, hence there will be no one left to control Gaia. Shia immediately refuses to allow them to employ such a tactic, but Lashera gives a reality check, reminding her how it took 2 artificial humans to take down Gaia in the past. She believes that Kenshi's current level can't help them win against Gaia. Maria and Yukine suddenly show up and announce their failure to convert the compressed pellets into an energy source. They tell Wahan the pellets are too hard and can't be scratched. As soon as she hears them, she has a brilliant idea, so she tells them about it. They agree that Kenshi has to make a compressed weapon, but they need the raw materials for it to work. Aura suggests they compress Swan, but Kenshi gatekeeps his nation. As they brainstorm on where to get a rock bigger than the Swan, Yukine tells them she has something similar. They head to her hometown and see a humongous rock that towers above the clouds. There, the locals worship the rock as a deity, and they note that no one can pass through a gate. While one of them argues with Yukine and Maria, Kenshi casually walks through the barrier. It takes a while for the senile geezer to process what just happened, and when he realizes, he kowtows and glazes Kenshi like a lollipop. Meanwhile, Lan goes after the Swan to get rid of Kenshi for good. They spot him in the village and do not understand what's going on, so they observe for days to get a grasp of their surroundings. As time passes, they see Kenshi trying to compress the giant rock and learn from Light that Kenshi plans to counter Gaia's shield. Lan then decides the best time to strike Kenshi and his crew is when they're weak, so the bandits watch them struggle with their objective. At the point where the strongest fighters struggle to hold the rock at bay while Kenshi compresses it, Lan and her forces attack them. Left with no choice, Yukinen defends them and acts as a meat shield. She receives lots of hits, and just when all hope seems lost, a horde of battle suits pulls up and defends Kenshi's squad from above. With determination, Kenshi compresses the rock into a sword, and with one swing, he wipes out his foes. The allies then show up, and Kenshi sees they are Lithia and the rest of the schoolgirls. Lithia walks up to him, and he expects her to reprimand him or call him a wild beast, but to his surprise, she and the other girls kneel before him and ask him to command them. After a while, they follow Kenshi into the Swan, and they praise him for becoming a king of a nation. He pants heavily, and at one point, he collapses. Everybody worries about him, and they take him to a bed to rest. They see he has a fever and believe it's the effect of the huge rock he stressed himself compressing, while struggling to catch his breath. He observes them and recalls how they gathered around him the first time he arrived at Chotriyu. Although worried, they decide to give him space to recover, so they head downstairs to discuss what to do about his situation. Not long after they leave, Mizaya sneaks into the room. She tells him that she learned from Nawashi that he is the union of an artificial human from their world and a normal human from his world. She reminds him of strange instances to support that he is a product of an artificial human. She then reveals that the fever he's experiencing isn't from fatigue but the refusal of his body to fight her. As she tells him they are the same, she drops her bracelet and Babylon's hologram appears. He then commands Kenshi to obey his orders. Immediately, Kenshi experiences writhing pain as seals appear around his body. Unknown to the girls, they wonder if they should fight without Kenshi after all. He's not from their world, and it isn't his responsibility to fight for them. Suddenly, the king of Shirufan and queen of Habaniwa show up and speak of Kenshi as their in-law. Their supposed in-law, on the other hand, fights for his life as he tries to resist the order, but Babylon tells him it's futile. Still, Kenshi insists that he has a will, and he isn't a doll. With every ounce of energy in his body, he breaks out from the control, and he falls to the ground. The girls hear him and rush upstairs, only to find Mizaya. Suddenly, she makes the ring around Kenshi's new sword crack, and as a result, the weight forces the floating ship to sink. Mizaya then transforms into doll and flies off. Kenshi, on the other hand, regains his stamina, and he quickly uses a new model battle suit to carry the weight of the Swan. The girls marvel at his strength, while Babylon vows to destroy him with Gaio once it awakens. The next day, while others prepare to fight Babylon to regain the Holy Land, Dagnir stops acting like a sissy and prepares for war. The bandits also lie in wait and prepare their traps, and somewhere else, the fearsome Sikishi awakens. That night, the bandits camp out late, waiting to ambush Kenshi and his allies, who are on their way to the Holy Land. The group members doubt if Kenshi's group will really pass that route, but others believe they will. At first, they wonder if they are enough to take on the Swan, but they are reminded that they are using a fortress, and they have Gaia's anti-shield replicas as their advantage. Not only that, they also plan to use the Ina vacuum, which battle suits can't come close to. Not still convinced enough, due to the trauma they've gotten from Kenshi. One of them asks how they plan to take him out. After all, he can move outside the draft. Lan then assures them that they just need to stall him for Gaia to fully revive. If they can do that, then victory is theirs. Suddenly, she notices their enemies have arrived at the fortress, so they prepare for battle. Kenshi's allies initiate the attack, but the evil forces use the fortress to their advantage. The king of Shirufan tells them that they shouldn't get too close to the fortress, and they should focus their attacks on the gate. Flora then proceeded to release her own forces to aid the king. On the other side, Lan assures her teammates not to worry because the wired battle suit can't come close to them. The fierce battle then continues, and Lan's forces are at an advantage because of the various traps and properties of the fortress. To their surprise, Lan's forces plummet, and she spots steam-powered battle suits who have snuck onto the fortress walls, cutting the power supplies of her allies. Lan's troop tries to take them on, but they fail at it miserably. Meanwhile, Light, who observes Lan, speaks badly of her performance. As he learns the swan isn't outside the fortress, he gets a call that informs him that the swan is moving across the railroad. This shouldn't be possible since the bandits had destroyed the tracks, but Flora outsmarts them by having Wahan use a Kikujin to maneuver the tracks while dragging the floating island across. Meanwhile, Flora attacks Babylon's floating fortress with her armored train, but Isekai'd intercepts them. By the time the swan gets to its checkpoint, Wahan leaves and it soars over the sea. Lithia then turns around its ship to assist with the battle. Babylon, on the other hand, is cornered, so Isekai'd suggests that they should send Dal while they wait for Gaia to completely revive. To their surprise, Dagnir shows up and insists he go in her stead. As for Lan, her forces advise her to flee, but the gold-digging wench refuses after being promised a country and the fortunes of treasure. She vows to use her life to hold out the defense line. Out of nowhere, they see cocoons that are launched over the fortresses with trebuchets. Immediately, they cross the fortress. The cocoons transform into battle suits. One of them is Morga, Lithia's beloved senior, and a warmonger. As soon as she's let loose, Shirifan's king orders the remaining unit to steer clear away from her. Lan calls for reinforcement, but they are abandoned by Babylon. In the meantime, Lithia and her group see an approaching enemy squad, so they engage them in battle. They're male knights, who are on Dagnir's side, refuse to fight them, and they wonder how things are going on in the Holy Land. As Kenshi's group approaches the Holy Land, they prepare for their worst adversary, Gaia. All of a sudden, Dagnir shows himself while holding an explosion seal and demands to fight Kenshi. Kenshi's allies ask him to ignore the buffoon, but Kenshi charges the right to fight him. The battle commences, and Kenshi low-diffs Dagnir like taking candy from a youngster. Still, that was more than enough time for Gaia to awaken. Dal immediately jumps into the cocoon and flies out with the monstrosity to face Kenshi. The two sides of good and evil clash, and they are on par. After witnessing Kenshi's ability to hold his ground, Babylon teleports to Gaia and dissolves into a goop for the monster to absorb. Other forces try backing Kenshi up, but Gaia easily demolishes them with a beam. The battle suit nearly annihilates Yukine and Flora, but Kenshi shows up and almost stops it. The two-faced loser, who miraculously survives the crash of his brother's fortress, entrusts Kenshi to take down Gaia. Lithia's group continues their tough battle with the bandits, and thanks to the principal's strategy, they manage to outclass their opponents. Everyone on Swan watches as Kenshi tries to fend off Gaia's attacks. They see he's at a huge disadvantage, so his self-imposed partners choose to aid him in battle. Kenshi struggles with Gaia, but no matter how many times he cuts Gaia, the Seikishin keeps on regenerating. Kenshi's allies then sight the barrier reactor Dagnir left behind and proceed to charge it for Kenshi to use. He warns them of how dangerous it is, but they insist and successfully pour their vigor into the reactor. When it reaches 100%, the reactor glows, so Kenshi quickly picks it up and fires it at Gaia. The explosion creates a huge crater, but Gaia recovers and laughs like a generic villain. Everybody except Kenshi loses hope, and he charges at Gaia once again, but then hears Dal calling out for help. Instantly, something in him rises, and conveniently, Gaia Restoration loses its effect and cannot attack Kenshi due to Dal's control. Kenshi then bonks the living daylight out of Gaia, and as his weapon shatters, a huge beam shoots out of it. So he chases Gaia and slashes everything but the battle suit while at it. When his attack eventually hits, it doesn't cut through Gaia. So Kenshi's sword breaks, and a new blade conveniently cuts the hideous creature into two. The result stuns not only his allies, but also the viewers who realize where one of the big three drew a reference from. Kenshi rescues Mazaya, and she asks him if he wants her motherlode or wants her to tickle his pickle while being a doll. Unfortunately, Babylon interrupts their good time and crawls towards Isekai'd, asking for his body. The lil bro points a gun and shoots down their foe. As if plot twists weren't enough, Isekai'd transforms into Rhea, who is Nizei. Babylon then tries to enact his vengeance, but he's so weak that a silver arrow isn't needed to take him down. Instead, he falls from the railings and ends up looking like mud. As Nizei passes on, she thanks Kenshi for helping her live long thanks to the tea. Moments later, all the ladies gather around and try proving why they are the rightful wife to the hero of the day. They then decide that the one who catches him first gets to have him for themselves. Immediately, they give him a hot chase, but he runs very deep into the forest. Meanwhile, Dagnir finds the jewel from his father's corpse, and once he picks it up, and it cuts his hand and glows. Unknown to him, Lan sneaks up to him to take his life, believing that way she'll earn treasures. Fortunately, Emira finally gets the shine she deserves by giving Lan the payback for always insulting her and trying to gatekeep her master. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment wet plot. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want me to post unplotted, but don't forget to check out the next video. It might just be your new favorite anime recap.